Greetings, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, we will continue our reading of the Black Anglo-Saxons by Nathan Hare on page 67, The Possessors.
Greetings. My name is the Revolutionary Matron, and my show is called The Learning Curve. I broadcast on a network called KWAZ Radio. There are other hosts on the network I'd like you to meet.
Greetings, everyone. This is Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, inviting you to tune in to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed here belong solely to the respondent, and they do not necessarily reflect any broadcast networks, affiliates, nor sponsors. The Learning Curve is a broadcast created for the benefit of my global community. Black is a consciousness. Content is being used for our commentary, research, criticism, education, scholarship, teaching, preaching, and news reporting. No copyright infringement is intended. I will make enunciation mistakes. I will give you my opinion about the information. And if you ever ask, I will send you my source.
The possessors might equally be called the dispossessed, since they really have very little in the financial sense. Their mania for conspicuous consumption is a means for compensating for the stark poverty that exists in even the non-material aspects of their lives. They consume in order to replenish their egos withered by social poverty and rejection. Preoccupied as they are with material consumption rather than with the production of anything whatsoever, material or otherwise, they are unsurpassed in the art of consuming without really having or being as much. What group of people in modern society does this remind you of? Greetings, Forecast. Thanks for tuning in. Even when they do acquire some meager portion of wealth, their fixation on goods rather than deeds soon causes it to evaporate into the thin air of individual and collective waste, or symbolic and ceremonial spending. This is why we're not supposed to be celebrating holidays, and that's why rugged individualism is killing us. Instant credit cards are collected from every possible source, and the merry-go-round of revolving charge cards is indulged. The possessor is soon going around and around in the eternal circle of debt. The possessor's endless chain of spending is not always a goal in itself. Quite frequently, it is a means of purchasing white approval and acceptance. Their spending is a way for them to purchase white approval and acceptance. Many relish even the brief smile of commercial friendship flashing across the face of a white store clerk after a purchase, because they're going to smile in your face and take all your money. When a national secret society met in Minneapolis, Minnesota, one St. Louis member asked whether he had found any bias during his stay here. He replied, "I've been spending too fast to be discriminated against." A frequent boast of those who seek to purchase white friendship or to outspend discrimination is, I can buy my way. This is also a turn on money doesn't have a color or green is the only color that matters when that's not true for us. Believing this, they are dedicated to the proposition that all money is created equal. Thus, they personify it and place it on a plane of reverence traditionally reserved for human beings and deities. The possessors, pets, and their names frequently assume a symbolic importance, indicating acquisitive prestige. A French poodle is named Nicole, serving to indicate a knowledge of French on the part of its owners. Other names, as the poet Langston Hughes had observed, range from Churchill, Symphony, and Abyssinia to Dolly, pronounced Dolly, and other non-American Negro appellations. One Kansas City, Missouri couple gave their mixed brown and white Chow Shepherd watchdog a plush burial when he died, including an identifying headstone. Brand names and labels are also important. Some female possessors procure labels from exclusive stores through some friend or relative and have them sewed into cheaper clothing they actually buy and wear. One enterprising woman, having only one such label, attached snap fasteners to it and several of her dresses so that she could transfer it from one to the other at will. So important to her was having a brand name on her back that she sewed those push button snaps into her clothes and onto the label so that she could have a label in her clothes that made her feel like it was more expensive than it was. Those disinclined or unable to employ the devices of label switching and brand display may still secure a vicarious sense of prestige through a knowledge of the best brands. They acquaint themselves with a diversity of goods, particularly furniture, shoes, and clothing. According to the travel column of the Pittsburgh Courier, a survey of passengers returning from a Caribbean cruise showed their preference for 12 or 13-day trips over those of 5 or 6 days. One of the chief reasons given was that the longer trips allow more time for shopping. One female possessor from New York made a tour of South America searching for sets of fancy silver. While employed in government foreign service posts, possessors will collect whatever art objects they can pay for and carry back to the United States. These not only serve the purpose of cluttering their front rooms, but also to enable relatives and in-laws to gain vicarious prestige by exhibiting them to their own friends and intimates. Possessors enjoy ultra-spacious homes with 3 stories and 4 fireplaces, or the type where you stop counting rooms. They also desire a kidney-shaped swimming pool with a rock garden in the small part of the kidney, a barbecue area as big as a kitchen, and a rumpus room with a capacity of 250 people. Of one such home, a New York possessor wrote, I stopped counting the bars too. Then there were the his and her Cadillacs. Hers was in pink. There are also dens and the inevitable rec room. Lest the reader think that the Black Anglo-Saxon has cornered the market on conspicuous consumption, let him consider a recent report on a certain white Anglo-Saxon and her plumbing, quoted by Inez Robb in the New York World Telegram of July of 1964. Mrs. Felix Chapelet of Los Angeles has a tea every day in her 24 by 36-foot bathroom with its marble tub and 14-karat gold-plated dolphin features. It is in this room that Butler serves cocktails and appetizers to guests before formal dinners. Miss Robb comments, was unable to learn if marble tub is occupied during the soirees. To sustain their mimicry of an acquisitive white society and to support their greed for prestigious belongings, possessors are frequently compelled to engage in moonlighting. Male school teachers in at least 2 large cities I have lived in seek summer jobs in nearby steel mills. In other cities, many of them take on supplementary part-time jobs driving taxicab after school hours or sorting mail at the post office. Almost all depend in varying degree on the wages of a wife. They find themselves in financial distress if she becomes pregnant and is unable to work. One husband I know stopped talking to his pregnant wife for several days after she ceased working. It is becoming a commonplace practice among possessor spouses to bank separately, dividing all bills so that each pays half, keeping the rest of their earnings in their separate accounts. So possessors do that 50-50 thing. Female school teachers who are required to wait several months to a year after pregnancies before returning to work become social workers or government clerks in order to save their marriages. Others hawk cosmetics from door to door while husbands sell kitchenware and women's jewelry on the side. Some possessors are torn between the conflict of wanting the salary of a working wife and the prestige of being able to support financially a useless marital partner. Clinging to antique mores, they boast that their wives do not have to work. In turn, the wife gains prestige with her women and men friends. They will remark enviously that her possessor husband treats her like she's Miss Anne, the symbolic name used for a white woman. But in the end, even those who hold 2 or sometimes 3 jobs apiece may end up in debt. Some couples live as many as 800 miles apart, commuting alternately for weekend visits. They maintain a residence in one community where prestigious employment cannot be had by both. Theirs thus becomes a weekend, or rather a bi-monthly marriage, with both participants living and working apart, coming together so briefly to share a multi-mortgaged house. The large amount of time spent away from home by the possessor couples in order to keep up payments on the house may account for the popularity of open house affairs. Invitations to these parties will announce that the host couple is at home in such and such exclusive acres on a given date, and all are welcome to visit. Many possessors boast that I paid more for the ground around it than I did for the house. This left one fellow I know without funds or time after moonlighting to keep up his lawn. Nevertheless, he had a green spotlight focused on it at night. Summer homes overlooking a lake or other body of water or a park are especially prized. The implication is that the possessor owns both the view and, to an extent, the park itself. Basement or lower level apartments are referred to as exclusive garden apartments because one can look out of the window directly onto, or rather up at, the garden, which usually consists of some grass and a few stray flowers. Then there are lake view apartments, with the lake so distant as to be barely visible. If there are 2 bedrooms, the largest is called the master bedroom. Much of this is obviously copied from white advertising practices. Among possessors in New England and in the Midwest, the latest fad is ownership of two homes, one to live and work in, one in a and the other in one of the sunshine states, such as California or Arizona. The large amount of discrimination practiced in Florida has caused them to avoid that state. Others strive for membership in the summer cottage set. Those possessors unable to purchase two houses may swap homes during summer vacations, obtaining thereby a brief feeling of multiple ownership. Still others borrow status from the person who previously lived in the house. The higher the standing of the former resident, the greater the prestige. Failing in both quantity and quality of things possessed, possessors will struggle to acquire the most unusual house in town. This often necessitates their building it themselves. It may sport such rare features as a room built around a tree or split levels with a cathedral ceiling, and much glass in back where there is a view of the cultural center. This view is often their only contact with culture. The forecast says they was talking about Florida back then too. Yes, they were talking about Florida back then too. Florida man is a legend. Greetings, Anthony McPhail. How are you tonight? Thanks for tuning in. For those financially able to acquire furniture only piece by piece, the shifting trends and fashions in household furnishings present a difficult problem. In consequence, they find themselves shifting between the antique and the ultra contemporary. One current fad in period furniture is the inclusion of a captain's chair for the head of the household in dining sets. Many men who, unlike those of yore, are no longer the true heads of their family, gain a superficial sense of importance by sitting in the only chair at the table except the babies with arms. Non-musical possessors will purchase French provincial pianos, then push and nag their disinterested offspring into taking piano lessons in order to answer the inevitable query, "Oh, who plays the piano?" The diversity of purchases made by a possessor is also a source of pride. One female possessor bought the dress she wore to her son's wedding in Paris, shoes to match in Rome, and her accessories in plain old New York City. Fine cars are also objects of the possessor's passion, as they are of nearly every American's. Frequently compete with their houses in size. So strong is the mania that one New York businessman had to buy his junior partner a Cadillac to stop him from borrowing his own. One New York possessor bought a big car, referred to significantly as a boat with fishtails, and equipped it with a bed, bar, and icebox, possibly because it would have to double as living quarters to help him keep up the payments. All of this is clearly another example of aping white fetishism. So they're just copying white people. Possessors will hire, borrow, rent, and assemble between 6 and 10 air-conditioned Cadillacs for each of their motorcades or processions, including weddings and funerals. They marveled when Father Divine purchased 6 of these vehicles at one time in Philadelphia, paying for them with cash from a suitcase filled with bills. Those able to acquire only one car compensate through such substitutes as its color. The hue lends added prestige to the make or model. White, of course, imparts the highest status. This fixation on tints extends into other areas of life. One prominent figure in Chicago that was female owns a pink Thunderbird, pink curtains, pink rugs, and everything else pink she can possibly manage. Mink coats, Cadillacs, preferably with air condition, and bonded liquor are still old standbys. Once the meager supply of the expensive brands of spirits has evaporated, guests must frequently pitch in and help the host to replenish it. When all available liquor is gone, possessors will contribute whatever change is in their pockets and send out for an extra bottle or two. Among female possessors, the apex of prestige is a costly gown, specifically purchased to be worn to some important ball. A frequent boast is that a gathering contained no gown at all that cost less than $400. The current fad in imitation of white fashion makers centers on $500 wigs, and that's still true to this very day. There's a note here. The Anglo-Saxon religious leader of the lower class was Father Divine. He built an integrated heaven, barred the use of Negro and other crude words, and took for himself a young white virgin bride. That's who Father Divine was. Isn't that something? There is a great clamor for the best dressed titles, since this honor must be in a white run society, bypass most Black Anglo-Saxons. They are generally content to be called a fox occasionally and to take part in battles of wardrobe in everyday life. Many of those who achieve official recognition as best dressed do so by making many of their own clothes. This is why virtually every Black Anglo-Saxon best dressed list contains at least one high school or college home economics teacher. Whereas the white persons they emulate are wealthy, spending an estimated $60,000 a year on clothes, according to a Saturday Evening Post article. Most of the Black Anglo-Saxon best dressed must work for a living. Consequently, they purchase double duty wardrobes. One, as one observer put it, that is, clothing which is suitable for professional chores as well as off the job social activities. When the 10 best dressed women of Columbus, Georgia were chosen from the city's top flight women in social, civic, and community circles, they included the wife of an Army sergeant, a secretary, an arithmetic teacher, a college student, a laboratory technician, a dentist's wife, a doctor's wife, a grade school principal's wife, and of course, two home economics teachers. The ownership of a Paris-made dress is often sufficient in itself to get an aspirant onto the best dressed list. Additional prestige accrues to the foreign-made apparel, which boasts of superfluity of materials and labor. One social columnist boasted that her 17-year-old Negro debutante in Los Angeles wore a gown made of 20 yards of hand-embroidered French lace. Those unable to purchase clothing made abroad make up in quantity what they lack in quality. A party I attended, given by a substitute teacher and his wife, who was a nurse, affords an example. In the course of the evening, the hostess changed dresses 4 times. Better gowns are occasionally brought hot from fences, anxious to get rid of them. Purchases are made in beauty shops or by husbands in barbershops and pool rooms. Fox throws are especially prestigious. According to Talkie Shock Johnson, the women's editor of the Courier, they can be used for napping, bed covering, or as a car robe. To sleep wrapped in fur is the ultimate in luxury as our fur throws to step on when getting out of bed. In addition to prestige buying, there is the intense and complex preoccupation of conspicuous food consumption, or what we would call mukbang. After soaking up gossip, cocktails, and appetizers during long evenings of bridge, possessors retire to the inevitable sumptuous dinner. This passion for consumption is apparent in the endless sequence of breakfast, dinners, and luncheons. There are also brunches for those who don't get up early enough for breakfast or who are not still up after an all night celebration. To satisfy the propensities for gluttony, greed, and conspicuous waste, as well as to justify them, activities are invested with ceremonial pomposity. Pains may be taken, for example, to match the shade of the tablecloth with the color of the pink champagne. An official hostess, not the person actually sponsoring the affair, as well as a squad of professional caterers are usually on hand to dispense multi-course meals served completely in style, waiters and all. Caterers are also popular for private affairs. Their presence shows not only that neither the hostess nor her husband had to do the cooking, but also that they are comfortably fixed enough to hire someone who in turn has spent time and money becoming an expert in preparing decorative feasts. This confirms Thorsten Veblen's findings about the white leisure class of the 19th century. Their tradition still lives through their present day descendants. Black Anglo-Saxon possessors have simply taken over the model. Possessors appoint chairmen and co-chairmen in the case of fêtes sponsors by organizations, as well as a number one and number two hostesses to preside over the pouring of imported tea and the mixing of cocktails. They serve to place some restraint on overly hungry or thirsty guests. One wedding reception had a combination chef, caterer, gourmet flown in by jet from 1,000 miles away. Rather than give this super caterer advance notice, they preferred to wire him at the last moment to in plain post haste. Upon his arrival, the caterer was expected to display unusual talents at preparing succulent delicacies. He may whip together such dainties as a triple entree of prime rib roast, barbecued ham, or brook trout flown in from Colorado or Illinois. There may also be curried shrimp zucchini a la Ross, Italian aphrodisiacs, and coffee brulee. Food and drink are provided in a superabundance, with champagne cocktails served from bubbling, triple-tiered fountains of silver. But in spite of such attractions, in addition to silver candelabra and E-shaped tables, guests generally linger on at the bar or eggnog bowl. Of course, food still retains a central place in the festivities, notwithstanding the tendency of many possessors to derive pleasure from merely talking about their passion for expensive cuts of meats. They will announce casually that they have had a taste for charcoal broiled steak all day, or when I want my beef, I just gotta have my beef. The editor of a leading New York Negro weekly carries a little Japanese hibachi stove in his car all the time. Thus, he may leave work an hour or so early whenever the mood strikes him and drive out to a picnic area. On one such occasion, it suddenly began to rain. Undaunted, the steak-hungry possessor blithely brought the stove into his house. Once there, he poured himself a drink and proceeded to cook out indoors. The heavy smoke, however, dissuaded him from continuing the practice. A growing fad, especially among social worker and school teacher possessors, is to leave one room of their two or three bedroom apartment vacant for use as a maid's room. Those who cannot afford a maid, current domestic salaries being nearly as high as their own white collar pay, will seek government posts in such hardship areas as Africa where they will be able to maintain a servant. Even then, things do not always run smoothly. Harold Isaacs, writing in The New Yorker, reports on one such couple whose steward told them he was ridiculed by his friends because he was working for non-whites, whereupon they fired him. The article went on to observe that these Black Anglo-Saxons, once back in the U.S., will boast of their knowledge of Africans, meaning their servants. Yet these same people are angered when U.S. whites similarly claim to know Negroes on the basis of intimacy with their servants. Also, echoing their white counterparts, they will express concern when a member of the servant class gets out of his or her place. One of the most fabulous Negro homes in Tulsa, Oklahoma, belongs to a maid handyman couple. Employed by wealthy whites, they purchased the home as their own form of status seeking. It is stocked to overflowing with imported liquors and perfumes, and the walls are covered with moose heads. As benefits a member of the leisure class, the handyman has taken up hunting. Often, although the best dressed woman in the Black Anglo-Saxon world is a maid with clothing inherited from her wealthy employer, her social status is too low to permit her to receive official consideration in the selection of the best dressed. Consequently, the title goes to a Black Anglo-Saxon of higher prestige, but with a decidedly inferior wardrobe. Banking is still another activity that affords opportunities for symbolic possession among Black Anglo-Saxons. Many keep checking accounts, which they barely manage to avoid overdrawing before every payday. Nonetheless, they can boast, I gotta go to the bank today. I've got to go bank today. Said importantly under pressure of time, or more nonchalantly, oh, I'm banking today. And these are just ways that they try to copy white people. For those able to afford it, philanthropy is a source of monumental prestige. For instance, the Educational Foundation of the National Council of Negro Women has launched a campaign to raise $2 million. This is to be used not for any of the thousands of needy Negro scholarships and college fund aspirants, but for a lasting monument to the founder of the organization and a cultural school and center. Possessors financially unable to feign philanthropic streak, even by chipping in with groups, may participate in organized gift exchanging on holidays and special occasions. Many follow the custom within associations or among fellow employees in similar groups of making name drawing and the exchange of gifts a mandatory function at Christmas time. The quality of the gift, not being motivated by personal sentiment, depends entirely on the giver's desire to show off. This practice is not restricted to Black Anglo-Saxons, but is employed by whites and non-Black Anglo-Saxon Negroes. I believe it reflects the general loss of intimacy by rural migrants in the social isolation of metropolitan life. But the possessor's reaction to this predicament is more extreme. A Christmas party will be held in mid January since only a limited number can take place during the brief holiday season proper for the purpose of exchanging gifts. Class and family reunions provide another means of displaying one's success and acquisitions. Before going south for one of these events, the possessor goes to the loan company and borrows spending money, then to the clothing store for one or more new suits on this charge account. Then he falls home with sufficient ready cash and new belongings to back up an affected manner of speech and a feigned prosperity. So as you can see, they go take out a loan and borrowed money to go home. The forecast says his family still draws names at Christmas, but he's never participated. One of the major motives behind the vacation craze is the opportunity provided for feigned affluence. Chicago school teachers, for example, will take their annual spring vacations in Florida in imitation of their white colleagues, despite the Jim Crow policies there. Those without sufficient funds for these trips endeavor to deceive their friends and coworkers into thinking they have been away. One method is to send a letter by some cousin or brother-in-law who is a railroad employee to a distant point to be mailed back to those one wishes to impress. Meanwhile, the hoaxers either have their phone calls switched to another number or simply refuse to answer the phone. Some will remain homebound, even afraid to go to the corner store lest they encounter one of their fellow employees. The desire for affluence may extend even beyond death. Many possessors make plans and arrangements at the age of 40 or less for elaborate funerals to be carried out by their families after death. One Chicago possessor, when questioned on the expense of her husband's funeral, reported, "That's the way he lived, that's the way he wanted it, and I think that's the way he should have been buried." In life, the possessor's passion for ownership may extend to something as simple as the occupancy of a chair. When I was teaching sociology in a Black Anglo-Saxon college, I noted unmarried faculty members regarded certain dining hall seats as theirs by right of seniority and tradition. As a newcomer, I was naturally unaware of this folkway. My inadvertent occupancy of seats belonging to others created a mild storm. At first, there were hints, then refusals on their part, not mine, to eat at all or to sit in the dining hall. Finally, the director of the establishment was petitioned to set formal place cards before each seat at all meals. With regard to millionaire possessors, a distinction should be made between legitimate millionaires and those who, by virtue of having a non-salaried income and bank account, acquire the label. Legitimate millionaires may be heavyweight prize fight champions, cult prophets, rhythm and blues recording stars, and the like. Because of the discriminatory restrictions in business and commerce, possessors in these fields generally enter an area which provides service to others: beauty culture, barbering, undertaking, life insurance, medicine, law, social work, teaching, or entertainment. There is very little making or selling of concrete objects. Rather, they deal in the treatment of human needs. The resulting subordinate nature of their business or professional relationships often erodes their sense of self esteem. To compensate for this, they put on millionaire swingoramas featuring, if possible, white bands with much free spending in hotel rentals, nightclubs, and eateries. And again, these are the possessors because they want to be white, so they hire everything white. They go to a white hotel, they have white uh, chefs, they hire a white band, they do all of these things in an attempt to impress white folks. To supplement the thrill of these ceremonial fantasies of wealth, possessors form social clubs and secret societies which spend thousands on exclusive convention sites, money that would well be used to send more Negro children to college. When a leading secret society held its 1960 convention there, it was trumpeted that not since the Boston Tea Party has peaceful tradition bound Boston seen such who a whoop-de-doo. The the conveners had more people, more cars, more beautiful clothes, and a longer parade than ever before. And according to merchants, they spent more money. In addition, the society and the sister auxiliary practically took over most of the available hotel space at the plushest downtown hotels. These are only a few of the ways Black Anglo-Saxon possessors exhibit their passion for consumption to the relative neglect of production. Their condition is due, in part, to the pressures of historical circumstances and current policies of discrimination, and in part to the emulation of a neurotic white world. An important problem for Negro small businessmen is the pressure for acquisitive wives eager to spend all the profits. They will fill their homes with imported furniture, their closets with elaborate wardrobes, and their garages with new automobiles. Because of their unquenchable longing for anything the white bourgeoisie cling to as valuable, the possessors are reluctant to pause, even briefly, to consider whether or not a given commodity is really worth having. Their wants must be satisfied, even if they stand in the way of their needs. In reality, the possessors are themselves possessed. They are willing victims of the white mania for insatiable acquisition. Fundamentally, their pathetic pursuit of white values is an effort to elude their true personal and social identities. It is an endeavor to exclude themselves psychologically from the Negro race. So, isn't that interesting? The possessors are just trying to exclude themselves from the Negro race. They're making an attempt to separate themselves by trying to buy their way into whiteness. You can't buy your way into whiteness. You know, they use the term conspicuous consumption a lot. And Corporate Finance Institute defines it as the act of displaying ostentatious wealth to gain status and reputation in society. So spending a lot of money in an attempt to change your status, trying to make it seem like you're more than what you are just by spending money. Think about how these rappers and these entertainers show off in an attempt to say that they have the best or they have the most of something. I think each of us can see our families in these different groups of people, in these different groups of Black Anglo-Saxons, whether they are the party goers or the ones that celebrate holidays or the ones that emulate, all of them, every last one of them emulates white society in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And they're trying to gain acceptance by white people by demonstrating this particular behavior. And the quickest way to do that is to put down black people and spend your money with white people. So they are essentially divesting from their own community in an attempt to buy their way into the white community. When they go on these vacations and trips, they will put themselves in harm's way just to gain white acceptance, because Florida has never been a good place for us to go. And they said clearly that there are people that would say that they were vacationing in Florida, whether they actually were or were not. But those that actually made it to Florida were dealing with Jim Crowisms in an attempt to impress their white colleagues. Brother Bakari says it sounds like 2024. This book could have been written in 2024. Um, you know, we're not supposed to be celebrating their holidays. We're supposed to have our own holidays and holy high days. When we celebrate their holidays, we're letting them tell us when we can spend our money and what we can spend our money on. I wonder if any of you think that it's right for us to celebrate their holidays. Juneteenth was a cash grab, because at the point that they could tell us, hey, it's okay to celebrate Juneteenth, I'll give you the day off of work. You can come spend your money here on this yellow, black, and green stuff. Did that make it more special? Did that give it relevance? I don't think that that gave it more relevance. I think that that put us in a position where they were again trying to direct our spending. They say that we have all this buyer power, buying power, and that black power is buying power. Um, I wonder if they're trying to use that as a weapon against us, because they're telling us when to spend money, how to spend money, what to spend money on. The forecast says he sees a lot of concerts, singing, and dancing on Juneteenth. I see a lot of concerts, singing, dancing. I see a lot of parties. I see a lot of different types of merchandise in stores. You know, they have the Juneteenth foodstuffs, the ice cream and cupcakes that they decorate with that type of stuff. They tell you that you got to throw a party and a barbecue. They put you in a position where they want you to go to their stores. Old Navy has sales. All these other stores have Juneteenth sales in an attempt to capitalize on this. So we have to get away from the idea that these holidays are supposed to be holidays that we celebrate. If you want to celebrate a holiday, that's fine. That's on you. But I don't think that we're supposed to be celebrating holidays, because that's just another way that they control our spending, and they're trying to direct our behavior. And if they can direct our behavior, then they can control us. And they don't like us, you know? I'm not going to get into the exiles tonight because it would take too long to read the next chapter. Oh, greetings, Brother Bakari. How are you tonight?
I'm absolutely magnificent, matron. How are you?
I'm absolutely wonderful. Thanks for tuning in, for jumping on.
And peace to the chat. You know what? I agree with everything that you were saying. But on Juneteenth, I would give Juneteenth a pass, simply because that's how Juneteenth was celebrated, with the concerts and the singing and dancing, even before white people said something. When I lived in Texas for
Mhm.
Juneteenth, that's what they would have. See, people, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma. Now I even met some few people from Mississippi that always celebrated Juneteenth. Like, just follow me. Like, I started celebrating it when I was in Texas. Like, do you remember the movie Jason Lyrics?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember? You might not remember this part, but I just, when they was planning a bank robbery, or whatever, they met out, and it seemed like a church concert or whatever. Tret,
Yeah.
when he first met Bokeem Woodbine, they were at a Juneteenth festival.
Oh,
Yeah, they were at a
okay.
Juneteenth. Yeah, they were at a Juneteenth festival in that movie. So that's how Juneteenth has always been celebrated, with the exception of white people getting involved, putting stuff in stores. I absolutely don't agree with that. But that is our holiday that we should. That is our holiday that we should celebrate, because our people have always celebrated it. I heard some people say they wouldn't say, "Oh, it's a national holiday." They gave us a token. They didn't give us anything. That was something black people was already doing. But
Oh,
to the
okay.
point, yeah, there's some black people in certain areas was always celebrating Juneteenth. Now, when you was talking about how put themselves in debt, oh my goodness, because they want to go home and impress, right? They want to be better, because we're always in competition with each other, right?
Right.
So they go in debt to go home to look better than black people they have known their whole life. I have more than you, in trying to live white. That's like when I put in 2024, and I got to the point I said I can't tell people, what to do. I just try to let people know certain things. Like, if you come to where I live, right, and I to go to this black seafood restaurant called Phenomenal Seafood. If y'all see my channel, y'all see I got a lot of things on there about Phenomenal Seafood.
Mhm.
Go there and then go across the street, like a quarter mile away, across the street to the Mexican restaurant. And where do you think majority of the black people are?
They at the Mexican restaurant.
They're at the Mexican restaurant. Now, it is Phenomenal Seafood. If you see my videos, they have live music, they have great food, they have good drinks. They used to do the comedy show. They did all that to try and attract. I was actually kicked out of the Mexican restaurant one day, and they're passing out flyers to the black people. Man, won't y'all go over here to the black owned spot? Do the same thing. They got TVs, they got drinks, they got food, they even got live music on Friday and Saturday night. So, but we still do those same things, because we want to be better than one another. We're in competition with each other.
Exactly. And we want to emulate and copy the behaviors of all these other cultures, white people, Asian people, Mexicans. We want to copy these other peoples and these other nations when we have our own very rich cultural heritage that is deep. We have food stuffs and we have celebrations and parties and attire. And these people take our stuff and repackage it as their own and sell it back to us.
Yep, and sell it back to us. Yep, yep. Because we have been taught that we are 100% the problem at all times, right? And I'm not saying we don't have things that we need to work on, because we are people, and we do have a lot of things that we need to work on. But we can't allow people to do things to us, then we turn around and say, "See, that's what we do. Anything, see, we steal." But they always get a pass for everything that they have done. And then any small thing we do, we will crucify one another.
Oh yeah. And then we think that anything that any one of us does is going to disparage the whole race because we're
Yeah,
looked at as a group.
yep. And it bothers people when because I tell people sometimes, I'm like, man, that person don't represent me. Me and that person not the same. Nothing people like Candace on says and does represent me. Nothing that guy on Pan Africanism Strikes Back, and he used that name to get some people on his channel, and I used to be there. Nothing he say represent me. Nothing he says represent me other than Pan Africanism. But other than that, there's nothing he say. I'm not a part of that group. I'm not part of the Trump cult. And we have to understand that. We have to stop saying, oh, it's everybody because we all a group, we all the same. No, we not, because they separate themselves and don't want to be the same. They're not, they separate themselves and move and don't want to be a part of you. So whatever happened to them is not me, it's not you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not. And it's not about being a rugged individual or anything like that, but it's about disaggregating the data and making a distinction between two groups of people that look alike but have very different means, objectives, and purposes.
Yep, because that's all it is. That's all it is. We just happen to wear the same skin. That's it. We just happen to look alike. We just happen to descend from the same from those same group of Africans that came here. But other than that, we are not the other than that, we are not the same. And when they choose their side, I let people have them. I'm not the same as these people out here scamming black people all the time. I'm not the same as them. So we have to make a distinction. It's sad that it has to be that way, but it got to be that way.
It
I'm
is
not trying to be
sad.
white. I'm not trying to be white and be nobody else's culture. I'm proud to be black, proud to be who I am, and I'm proud to have friends and be associated with people that's proud to be black and proud to be who they are.
Exactly. And putting on airs, nobody is putting on airs, making out like, oh, I have so much wealth or I'm doing so many things to impress anybody. It's not about impressing anybody. This is just really how I live my life.
Yep,
So,
and it's yeah, and so I know this is slightly off topic a little. So the people that think like us, and I said on it's time we got to come together and do a meet and greet.
yes,
We really do, because the people that we have said is not like us, they are meeting and working together and creating so much chaos amongst black people, so much sophisticated confusion that the ones who think alike, we too far. And I know it happened to me sometimes, so I say me. I get too focused on wanting to beat them up at times instead of being focused on the ones that think like me and that think like us and the ones that want to build something.
yeah, yeah. They are. Stokely Carmichael talks about the fact that white folks can't outthink us; they out organize us, and we have to organize ourselves because our enemies and our adversaries, those that look like us and those that don't, out organize us.
Yep. Because if we were more organized and we could meet more people like us that was real, there's so much that we could do to further a movement, to further development. You understand what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like I'm gonna give you an example. And this was I was talking to my family. This was about 10 years ago, I guess. Where I'm from in Mississippi, called Greenville is our little city, right? Ain't no big city, but it's our little city where we go. And I told them, I say, look, I say, look, man, we got to have vision. We got to see what's going on here. I say, you see that casino? First, all the casinos was on a riverboat. So then they built one casino on land. I say, you see, now they calling it a casino and resort. They talking about in the next few years they want to start hosting professional boxing. I say, do you see all this land out here? They're gonna turn all of this land into a whole family vacation for the kids while the parents at the casino. You understand what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I told my family, I said, this land is 250,000. It's 10 of us. We need to come together right now and buy some of this land. But because it's Mississippi, they didn't even see it, right? Lo and behold, 10 years later, the land that was 250,000 is 2.5 million.
Mm.
But we can organize around things like that. That was just an example of my family us in Mississippi, but we can organize, or we should be able to organize around things like that, so we can benefit. Or if you don't want to sell the land, now you have land. What you want to do with it? You want to farm? You want to do whatever, or you hold it a little longer when they really start building. And now from 2.5, now you might be able to get 5 for it. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. But you got
But
to
we
be
have
able
to
to
have the
look at
vision.
this. Yeah, you got to have the vision. I was just about to say that. You got to
Yeah,
have the
we have,
vision.
and those are one of the things that us as a people, not me or you or Forecast, or Anthony, the few people that rock with us, that's not one of the things that we may be able to see it, but unfortunately we ain't got the money to do the things that we need to do. So we have to deal with we just have to keep pushing and keep trying until we meet some of the right people. We have to organize more. I'm not good at organizing. I have ideas. I can see things. I know how things should be done, and I'll just be honest. I'm not going to be the best one at organizing because I have people right now with a little money that want to donate. When I'm saying with a little money, they kind of, I don't see my celebrities that want to donate, but they said they want to see what we're doing being more organized, and they want to see what we're working toward, and they can donate. Like I have one of Tyler Perry actors. I don't know if you ever watched any Tyler Perry shows. The one, the House of Pain, the guy that played Floyd the Barber. He said he
Mm,
just need to see it more organized. Clifton Powell, the guy that played Pinky from Next Friday.
mhm.
Him, I know him. Me and him pretty good associates. They just say they want to see it more organized. They want to donate. They want to see us do better, but they want to see it be more organized.
Mhm.
But back to what you were talking about, still today in 2024, what she's saying, who wrote this book? I'm saying she because you're reading it. So what they're saying in this book, and you say you read the book Once Upon a Time when we were colored, right?
Yes.
If you think about, they're basically saying the same thing.
Mhm.
They are saying the exact same thing. They say the same thing that my mom and dad used to tell me. Like, you see these people move up to Chicago, in Detroit, go to these big cities, and come back home and act like they got so much. We have more than them. He like, they don't have no money. He said, you know how many people go back and call back to Mississippi to borrow money from their family to pay their bills because they wanted to come to Mississippi and look like they had more than what they had.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah, they
that
do
is
that
something.
all the
That's something
time.
that, yeah, that is something that still plagues us today.
The forecast says we can pick a place and organize a meeting up with everybody. Just make plans and make it happen.
Yeah, that's what I want to do, and I think now is what is this, June? We can start shooting for a weekend in like September. I want to reach out to the Gullah Geechee and see if we can do a tour. Maybe we could go there and meet some of our people on Gullah Island, and there's opportunities there. I know you said there were some things that we probably need to discuss offline that I've said on here, so I'm just gonna say this one part. They have their own nation. For people who don't
No.
know, the Gullah Geechee in South Carolina, Queen Ket is their representation in the United Nations. Queen Ket is their representation. So maybe we should organize there and around them, if that makes sense. If I can try to reach out to them and we can set up a tour. Because if we just go there, I'm going to tell you, white people's taking their identity. In the next 20 years, people going to think the Gullah Geechee was white. Because when I took my daughter down there, because me and my daughter wanted to go, so me and my daughter, we went. My son couldn't go, but we wanted to go, and she wanted to see some historical black stuff, and she heard me talking about the Gullah Geechee, And I said, let's go to South Carolina. And we went down there, and you put on the most popular island was James Island, right?
Mhm.
So it take you to everybody on James Island is white. So then they took me to another island. Everybody on that island is white. 3 different Geechee islands they took me to. Everybody on that island was white. The Gullah Geechee have, in those islands where black people land, where Gullah land. The Gullah Geechee now have 3 islands out away from the city where people's not even touring.
Mm.
But when you mention the islands, it was James Island. I think one was, what was it, Frank? I don't know. My daughter remember all of them. And we went, no, you go to those islands. I asked, I was like, man, I was looking for the Gullah Geechee Island because the GPS literally took me to somebody's address, literally took me to a person's house. I just put in the Gullah Islands in Charleston, South Carolina, right?
Mhm.
And the guy was like, yeah, this is the Gullah Islands, yeah. We stay over here on the Gullah Islands. I'm like, I'm shocked. Like, this the Gullah Island? And my daughter like, Dad, I thought you said the Gullah Geechee was black. I had to pull up a YouTube video and show her. Because everywhere we went, they were white. And then we went to North Charleston. And when we went to North Charleston, we met some Gullah Geechee because we had dinner in a Gullah restaurant. That's how we met the Geechee over there in North Charleston. But yeah, they're taking that identity. Next 10 years, next 10 years, those islands even out is not going to, I believe anyway, it's not going to be black.
Yeah, I believe you because that's what they do. They come and colonize it and claim it for themselves and develop it.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, those people have taken on that identity and then they sexually and socially integrate into the society. And right now, it seems like they're using commerce to integrate into the society and become those people.
Yep. And that's what they're doing. They're most definitely taking our people identity. They most definitely doing it. And like I said, I get caught up on beating somebody up. I mentioned this one time to the I don't even like to mention them, to people that call themselves ADOS. They had their own nation. They're in the United Nations. They fighting for this, and the Gullah ain't got nothing to do with us. They ain't got nothing to do with us. They ain't no black Americans. They separated themselves from us. They ain't no black Americans. They still want to be an African. Call them like, what the? Oh my God. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that mental illness pervades a lot of people where they want to divorce themselves from their African side. Now they even the black Israelites go through that, and I just don't even understand how they could deny it, how they can
Yeah.
deny their African side.
And, yeah. And that mental illness is there. And by the way, what's our forecast and whoever else in the chat? Yeah, but we have to do something. I guess the ones who gonna stand strong. And sometimes I tell people, I'm being honest. It it's not a hard life to live trying to be. When she was talking about when you, I keep saying she because you reading the book and you are great at what you do. I give you that. You are great at what you do. You're brilliant. But like that's why I keep. But when she was talking about how we don't want to shop with black people, and that's what I was about to say. Sometimes it's not hard for me to do, but it's hard trying to get other people to understand. They're so focused just strictly on white people. I know back then it was just white because nobody else was here and other people weren't in our communities. But today, when you talk about avoiding something, and then we think of a lot of excuses. You know, a good buddy, he was on the chat and he's like, man, we need to we want convenience. And I understand you want convenience, but giving your money to giving your money to the Western Asians, the East Asians, and the East Indians is not convenient. You can't search for convenience in an inconvenient society.
Exactly.
Because what you're calling convenience is not convenience to us, it's convenience to them. And if we can't go past, and I ask people this, if you can't go past 5 miles to find a black business, I say, so you go shop with the Arabs, the West Asians, you check with the East Indians, the Chinese and the Koreans, them the East Asians, right? I say,
Mhm.
so you, the Orientals, right? I say, you go shop with all those people. Do they live in your neighborhood? No. Do they kids go to school with your kids? No. I say, so they inconvenience themselves every day driving 50, 60 miles to come to your neighborhood to get your money. But you can't drive
Exactly.
an extra 5 miles to find a black business.
Exactly. Now I do understand some people have the complaint that black businesses pricing, but they have to understand that pricing is different for a black business. They can't get
Yep,
them deals because they don't have a chain of stores. They might not be wholesale shopping right now. So they might have to charge a little extra.
yep. And I know you're not gonna find everything at a black business, but everything that we can find at a black business is that where we should be shopping. And we should let that black business know that you have a responsibility to the community. We're responsible for taking care of you, keeping you afloat, you and your family. We spend our money with you. Now you're responsible for giving some of these teenagers jobs. If you that we, they shouldn't have to go to Kroger. We shouldn't come in here and you need help and you didn't hire two Mexicans. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm. Exactly. It's a reciprocitous relationship.
Yep.
But instead people want to say, "Well, I can pay the Mexican under the table and I can do this and I can do that. I don't have to abide by the labor laws," or "This is a Mexican adult," because most black adults don't want to work at their stores. But every day at these like there are a lot of Arab and Chaldean stores because like the Chinese and the Mexicans don't hire black people here at all. But at the Arab stores, they hire a black person to work their lottery machine. They hire a black person to sweep their floors. They'll pick up get a bum to, clean up their parking lot, and stock their shelves and things like that. And they'll pay them under the table.
And treat them like crap while they doing it.
Exactly.
Yep. I had a friend that he chose to go down that road. I was like, man, they used to get mad. I'm like, I'm coming looking for my friend. They tell me he can't go. Dude, what they mean you can't go nowhere? Dude, you ain't no slave. Get your ass in that car. Come get a real job. Come go to work with me. But he was so far gone on alcohol and wanted to live that life. It was hard for him to get it was hard for him to come work with me. It was hard. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But he was still my friend. I still looked out for him till the day he died. I never turned my back on him. I wouldn't turn my back on him. But I used to put them in check. Man, he hard to deal with. I'm like, dude, that's my friend. I don't want to hear that. I've been knowing him. I know how to deal with him. Be careful who you calling a friend. I'm like, dude, you not my friend. He's my friend. Man, they told me I can't go nowhere. Dude, get your ass in this truck. Pardon my French on your channel. But
That's
yeah,
all right.
but that's how they treat them. And all it's something else that I learned. Uh, all of the homeless people, uh, 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 most of the most homeless people can get food stamps, right? Well, all the homeless, if they're homeless, they can get food stamps, right?
Right.
When you see the homeless hanging around those Arab stores and they acting like they got it good, even though they don't, we know better.
Mm-hmm.
Them Arabs be getting their food stamps, stocking their store with it.
Yeah. Or like up here it's a thing where the Arabs will give you like 25 cents on the dollar for your food stamps or 50 cents on the dollar for your food stamps, and they'll just take their food stamp cards and cash them in and cash them out.
Yep, and that's how they be stocking their stores. Cause you find a lot of them, they be going to the same places black folks go to sometimes, getting their stuff. You'll see them in Costco or whatever that thing is. Walmart got not Super Walmart. Where you can go buy everything in bulk. I can't even think of the name of it.
Sam's Club.
Yeah, Sam's Club. Yeah, but then a lot of times they have contracts. They have contracts with these they have contracts with these with these places, and they don't have to make a payment up front. I know I used to deliver some to certain businesses, fertilizers and things. I might have delivered to two black businesses. Neither black company had no credit, but all the white companies and the Mexican companies, $100,000 worth of credit, $50,000 worth, $20,000 worth of credit, $200,000 worth of credit. The black business I went to, man, I got to pay for this up front when I ordered.
Exactly. And that's an unfair advantage that they have, just being able to access that type of credit.
Yep, and that also can add to the pricing. Because if I don't spend all my money at once, I got to make my money back. I got to make a little profit. So
And
these
I got to
people,
make it back as soon as possible.
yep, because I got to order some more stuff and they ain't giving me credit.
Hmm.
It's an uphill battle. It's a hard fight, but I'm built for the fight. I say I'm 52. I got at least another 50 years left on this earth. I'm gonna be doing it till I leave.
Well, I'm 46 and I got another 70 years inside of me. So,
Yeah, that's right. And we got to keep doing it because change is coming. But the change. When I say change is coming, I'm talking about us changing. If we want things to get better, we gonna have to change some of our habits. I heard you speaking on the spending power that we have, right? Is that true?
right.
You know what? Not spending is powerful. Spending your money with these people is not powerful. If you don't spend your money with them, spend your money with black and make these like I said, hold them accountable. Like you said, a reciprocal relationship with black businesses, with the community, right? Then
Right.
your money have then the money is powerful. But going out bragging on like we had a Gucci. Remember when black people said they wanted to boycott Gucci because they had somebody dressed in blackface or something like that? I
Hmm.
don't know if you remember that. It can't be powerful when you got people and black people love this guy for some reason. When you got people like Floyd Mayweather, I gave him credit for some things that he said, but I see who he is. But when you got people like him, when black people boycotting, he walk in Gucci with $8 million and say, "I'm spending $8 million today. I ain't worried about no boycott. We need to worry about deadbeat dads and all this gun violence in our community. What Gucci did ain't nothing. I'm about to spend $8 million and sat there on camera and bought $8 million worth of stuff from Gucci.
That's because he doesn't care. He doesn't have any real loyalty to the overall core issues that impact Black people. He's so removed from it. He thinks that green is the only color that matters.
Yep. And on this
He's a,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
he's a part of the larger problem within Black society
Of course he
because
is.
with his money he could open a school in America. He could train these young people to do something different. He could give them the game when it comes to credit or business management, but that's not what he chooses to do. He chooses to castigate Black people and talk about the fact that we don't have fathers in our households or the fact that there's gun violence, but that gun violence is because there's poverty.
Yep, yep. That and that seemed to be our and that and we look up so much to a celebrity. So now these celebrities we looking up to is these YouTube celebrities, the social media celebrities. And I ask people all the time, like, man, why ain't none of these big channels? I say, I know I got a small channel. I'm cool with that. I'm content with that. I'm not paying for any subscribers. I'm not because you can pay for people to interact with you. You can pay for all that, right?
Hmm.
But so you can get an algorithm. But why ain't none of these bigger channels? The only thing they're saying is don't vote, don't vote, don't vote. Okay, I got you. Don't vote, don't vote. We ain't gonna vote. I got you. But now that we've decided not to vote, what about our money? Why ain't you saying anything about don't give them your money? Hold your damn money, because your vote is easily replaceable. With all these illegal immigrants, all these immigrants here now, the vote is easily replaceable. They done bought so many of them. It cater to the Hispanics. It's 82 million Hispanics. It's 50 million black people, right? So if we cater to them, they don't care about losing the black vote. But what they care about is losing black money. And that is something we can't seem to fathom. That is something we don't seem to understand. Just like I was on a channel, this was a couple of weeks ago, and I go on a lot of HBCU channels, and they was talking about, oh, they don't have the donors, and they don't donate to us, and they don't do for us like we you know, like we'll do for the I like, well, if you want donors, if you want them people to come donate to you, stop spending your money with them. I said, man, how many of
Hmm.
y'all gonna stop wearing Nike? How many of y'all gonna stop wearing Adidas? And people don't really pay attention to that because it's almost like we don't have that understanding no more. I was like, well, yeah, look how Martin Luther King did. Look what they did at the Montgomery Bus boycott. Even though they should have been getting their own bus, because I'm not keeping my money in my pocket and away from foreigners and away from the people in our neighborhood so they can treat me better. I'm keeping my money away. So I want to build. I want more black businesses built. I want us to understand. Hmm? I want us to have a. I want us to have more. It's not. I'm trying to do a change of lifestyle, right? We talk about change your eating habits, change your lifestyle. So let's change our spending habits as well. Let's change who we spend, who we spend our money with. Let's go to Leroy's Chicken Shack instead of going to Popeyes. Or white people, these other people, they're so confident that they can do whatever they want, when they want, how they want, that they would even get open up a chicken restaurant in your neighborhood and name it Bojangles,
Hmm.
and we will go support Bojangles. And when you tell people don't go, I had a lady tell me, "You too black." Nah, that's you too black for me. I'm like, shit, you black as ace of spade. How I'm too black for you?
Mm-mm.
But that was some of the things we fighting. But I got in this truck with my son. I'm gonna listen offline. Thank you for letting me speak on your
Well, thank you for
on your
tuning in. I'm getting ready to sign off for the night. Thank you for tuning in.
always like I say, you do a great job. And
I
let me
want
say
to
this
say,
one more thing before we go. We have to support one another more. We have to support Matron putting in his effort to read these books for us. We have to support Oni, who's taking his time to write books about the black experience, and he reading books as well. You know, We have to, even if you only purchase one book. I plan to get them all. I have one this weekend. I plan to. I'm getting another one of his books. I plan to purchase every book that he have. So we have to start. We have to start supporting one another more. We have to. And now on that, I'm gone. And thanks for letting me speak.
Well, thanks for tuning in, Brother Bakari, and thanks for coming up into the chat. I want to say thank you to Anthony McPhail and the forecast, Brother Bakari, and anyone else that's out there listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll be back Monday to continue our reading of the Black Anglo-Saxons by Nathan Hare. All right, guys. Peace.